What's going on, everyone? What another absolute ridiculous roller coaster seesawing day in the stock market. Crazy price action. We're gonna go over the entire stock market. We're gonna go over the entire crypto market, and of course, guys, thank you so much for all of your support, your likes, your shares, your subscribes. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's get right into the video. So today, very simply, Fed Chair Powell spoke today, and in the most basic terms, literally what he was saying is the Fed is going to continue doing what it's been doing this entire time, with the only caveat that they might increase the amount of overnight lending by 2x. So essentially what that means is we're going to continue buying bonds, we're going to continue injecting $80 billion a month into the stock market, right? The entire plan is going to continue as planned, right? But the only difference is we might increase the overnight buying power. And yeah, essentially, really, the entire stock market, they took that as a very strong signal. Intraday, we jumped from 437 area when he was talking about this all the way up to 440. All right, 440 then became the resistance. We stopped exactly at 440.03 today, and essentially we fell back down, and we did not close in a strong way whatsoever. If that news was actually extremely strong the way it should have been, then we would have gotten a close above this blue trend line that we've been monitoring, as well as the 38.2% fib level at 439. So both of those levels are extremely important levels of resistance. Okay, this blue trend line specifically, if you're new to the channel, back here when in April this trend line formed, but we could not get more than 2 closes above this trend line, and you can see it acted as, you know, resistance. We overshot here a bit, then more resistance here, and then right here we began to close above that level, and then we retested the level back here again, and then we began to really skyrocket on higher. Okay, so that is the same exact level that we're currently sitting at, and the fact that we did not close on the SPY, we did not close above yesterday's high, nor did we close above today's in that trend line resistance here. So both of those things are not extremely bullish signals in the short term. Okay, so obviously we did reverse very well here, right? We reversed off of these bottoms from 428.86. Cool, right? And then we reverted all the way back up to 440 today. And the problem with this move is that we did not close above key levels of resistance. If we closed above 439 today, I would have gone long. I would have alerted everyone to go long, and everything would have been great. But the fact that the SPY failed to close above 2 key levels of resistance, and actually 3, the first, which is yesterday's high, the second, which is this blue trend line, and the third, which is 439. So we failed to cross and hold above 3 important levels, and that's the one thing that is worrisome to me. But of course, things look very bullish as well. So obviously the MACD is still extremely oversold, and it still has yet to move up, even though the SPY moved up. So that is extremely bullish. The RSI is starting to move up as well, which means that the MACD can begin to move up and follow the RSI. But, you know, the RSI really needs to, you know, start showing a little bit more weakness in its move upward, because if the RSI shows such sharp move upward, then that would mean that there isn't that much room to the upside on the SPY. Okay, so yes, it's pointed upwards, yes, we're starting to move upward, but we failed to cross above multiple levels of resistance, and that's the only problem that I see here. So currently I bought into shorts expiring this week as a lotto position. I'm not expecting it to be extremely, you know, profitable. I just, you know, took it as a risk because we weren't closing above this blue trend line, and we did not close above yesterday's high. So those two things made me want to buy into 437 SPY puts expiring September 24th. So we'll see if those work. But of course, it's a lotto, and it's not really a serious definitive play. But yeah, I'm not bullish on the market tomorrow. What I do think might happen is, I could be wrong, but I don't like the fact that we didn't close above any of these levels here. All right. And aside from that, if we do start to trade above this blue trend line and create support and then begin to consolidate, have multiple closes above this trend line, then that's great. But we did not have that just yet, and that is the only issue here. Okay. Everything else looks great. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the IWM. The IWM is another reason why I decided to short SPY, because yes, we filled the entire gap. The entire gap that was filled, or that was left from the gap down, right? We filled it today. But again, we failed to cross above this level of resistance. So literally the IWM closed at resistance, which is not good. You don't generally want to buy at a resistance level, right? You generally want to short at a resistance level. So that's what we did here, okay? And of course, this level of resistance has had multiple touches. It has been tried and tested, and the fact that we didn't close above that is worrisome to me. The RSI is also moving upward in a sharp manner, but obviously it makes sense for it to be more sharp on the IWM because it is the leading indice. It did the best out of all three indices, right? And the MACD has yet to move upward as well, which is still very, very bullish. That still means that there's tons of room to the upside, but the way that we closed was not fantastic. We closed at a key level of resistance, but of course, on the IWM, as long as we hold the 220 level, really, then we can start to consolidate and continue on higher and use this MACD as potential room to bounce upward. All right. So overall, the IWM is the strongest indice, but it failed at resistance as well. So that's my only issue here. So next, we can take a look at the NASDAQ, or the QQQ. So the NASDAQ closed fantastically, right? Compared to the other two, it closed pretty decently, right? It closed above both of yesterday's highs, right? Which were like important levels of resistance. But then, of course, also the NASDAQ failed to cross above 370. So this was a very, very key level of resistance that we also crossed above momentarily, but then we fell back and closed right below it. So this was also a level of resistance very similar to the IWM that we approached, but then failed to cross above. So the NASDAQ and the IWM basically closed very strongly, right? But they closed at a level of resistance. So again, at this point, you're not looking to go long, right? If we closed above this level, then that would give me all the courage and confidence in the world to enter a swing trade to the long side. But the fact that we had trouble closing above this resistance, the fact that we had trouble closing above this resistance on the IWM, and the fact that we had trouble closing above this resistance on the SPY made me want to lean short on the SPY as a lotto put. All right. Overall, the NASDAQ does still look very, very strong, right? The MACD, it's still very flat, which means that there's tons of room to the upside. The RSI is starting to move upward as well, which is, also a good sign, like we talked about in the other two indices. And this, has all the makings for a continued reversal for us to touch 372. But just, everything does look very bullish on the NASDAQ, but just the fact that all three indices failed at very, very major resistance just did not feel that great to me. They all rallied intraday, but then they failed to rally and they closed below resistance. So that's not a great sign to me, right? But of course, the setup is bullish on the NASDAQ. And yeah, so now I guess we can go ahead and take a look at the bonds and the dollar, because those are going to be very important to determine where the indices go. So the 30-year yield looks like it's going to cross above the 20 exponential moving average and close above that level, right? Overall, the 30-year yield does look very bullish. The 10-year yield does not look as bullish. It looks like it's going to close below the 20 exponential moving average, but it looks like they're both just chopping around in the same area, right? And right now, because we had huge extremes in the market, these are not going to be as relevant. But in general, when the 30-year yield and the dollar are both bullish, then the NASDAQ is bullish. But when the 10-year yield and the dollar are bullish, then the IWM is bullish. All right. Aside from that, I mean, you can't really tell anything from looking at the 10-year or the 30-year yields right now. But what we can do is take a look at the dollar. So the dollar looks very, very strong. And of course, when there is strength in the dollar, then it basically signals that there's weakness in the equities market. So we've been skyrocketing, and we are very overbought on the MACD. We're approaching overbought on the RSI as well. And if that were to happen, I mean, the main level of resistance that we need to cross above is 93.7. Aside from that, I mean, things are just going to be determined by the news coming out of China with Evergrande and their construction company, whether or not they will default, or whether China as a government is going to back that company. Okay. And that's really the main focus right now on the stock market. That's the reason why the market started to tumble. And yeah, I mean, I took that as a sign that, you know, like, there's no reason to overtrade. We bought into calls down here. We sold them at the top yesterday at the open, and today I just didn't really do much. We chopped up and down, and yeah, all I did was I just thought to buy some puts expiring this Friday. But aside from that, there's the analysis on the stock market. I guess now we can go ahead and take a look at the crypto market. So Bitcoin, it looks like it's going to close above this level of resistance, which is important. It has 3 hours left until the daily close. But if we can close above this level of resistance, that would be very bullish. Ideally, what we want to see is a close above 43,643, which is yesterday's high. So if you can close above yesterday's high, that would be very, very bullish for Bitcoin. Okay. Aside from that, I mean, everything else is just a matter of chopping around the 40,000 area. But to become definitively bullish, we need to close above yesterday's high today. Okay. For Ethereum, very, very similar. We have 3 hours to close above 3103. Okay, if we can close above that level, that would be very bullish. You can see that the MACD on both Bitcoin and Ethereum are extremely oversold. There's tons of more room to the upside. The RSI on both of them are starting to move upward as well. So now we just need to see whether or not they can continue on with their movement upward. And aside from that, that should do it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.